What do you get when you cross a heavy metal roadie, a TV producer, a growth-obsessed Martech marketing executive? You get Tim Glomb. And we have one hell of a conversation about creativity and conversion. From guitar tech for Mötley Crüe, starting Jackass, to, of all things, AI identification of audiences. Tim has really done it all. And he brings not only rock star charisma, but also marketing exec savvy to every conversation. So with that, let's get into it. This is The Art of Commerce, and we have a special guest today, Tim Glomb.
The Art of Commerce is a podcast featuring conversations on creativity and conversions. Hosted by Anish, a data-obsessed creative director, and Jinx, a growth-obsessed CMO. Listen on for actionable insights for the modern marketer.
Wow. I've never even thought about that mishmash of ingredients, man. When you hear it that way, it's nuts. So yeah, we'll clear some of that. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Well, of course,
Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, dude, we're so excited about this because, again, the minute I met Tim, like, he went through his background, we started jamming on marketing, and I was like, Tim is special. We need to record this conversation. And also, the best part about Tim, he's a Philly boy, like me.
Philly boy.
So,
Philly boys.
we're going to relate. All right, but let's get into it. So, okay, we said in the upfront, you've been a roadie, you've been a producer. Today, you're a Martech executive. When you go back and think about it, like, what's the unifying thread of all that?
You know, that's an interesting question. I think content is one of the threads that go through that, right? We talk a little bit about like music and content in the 90s when I was in music. Obviously, you know, working with Bam Margera, an old friend of mine, we had a record label together, all kinds of things, produced all kinds of content. That's there. Worked for Mark Cuban and television network. And now I head up global content at Wunderkind, which is the fun thing, stuff like this. Yeah, I'm head of AI over there and I do all the digital and everything, but I think content has been like this common thread, whether it's video or, you know, creating information for masses. It's been part of that.
It's pretty cool. Jinx, you said he was a roadie? Tell us more about it.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll keep it safe because I heard maybe some moms watch this podcast once in a while. Look. Yeah, man. I mean, I grew up in Philadelphia playing in punk rock bands. And then, you know, New York City, going up to New York City in the hardcore scene, punk rock and hardcore scene. I was a guitarist. I knew I never wanted to be a guitarist, but I liked the scene and the music. Fast forward, I worked with a bunch of different bands like Sheer Terror, you know, all kinds of hardcore bands. A band, Typo Negative, that everybody should listen to, is really great. Did a lot of guitar teching. I did tour management, and I went out with bands like Mötley Crüe. I ended up being in management for Everclear, band that was huge in the 90s, the most played alternative single on American radio in 1996, Santa Monica, Watch the World Die. Did a few years with them. And yeah, man, did it all and saw it all. You know, being young and dumb and loving to drink beers, you know, hanging out with Tommy Lee, which I brought into my marketing world 20 years later. We just did some things a couple of years ago together in the Martech space. So yeah, man. I mean, I could tell PG stories. I could tell XXX stories on those days, but they were fun, but they're a long time behind me. They're over 30 years behind me.
So wait, so did you put together Tommy Lee's rotating drum kit? That's what I got to know.
No. I did a lot of guitar teching. Wore a lot of different hats on tours like that. Tommy was great. I mean, I can't tell stories on camera, but the debauchery, I'll just say this. A lot of us are not in jail because camera phones did not exist in 1993, 1994, all right? It's a different world we live in today. But, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like, there's a reason why that's like peanut butter and jelly. It's talked about because it was real, man. It's probably still real in some countries today, but not like it was. And I was young.
Right.
I came in late in the 90s, you know, in the 80s. Whew, man, the debauchery. Crazy.
The stories you heard were even crazier than the ones you lived.
So the guys, you know, I'm this 20-year-old kid out on tour, just like taking it all in. Luckily, never got into drugs or any of that stuff, but girls and drinking. Yeah. But the guys that I was learning from had been doing this for 30 years. I mean, I was with AC/DC's main front of house sound guy. The guy couldn't hear. You had to yell at him to like anything. And you know, his claim to fame was he had like a 115 decibel concert and they got like some $50,000 fine from the city. And he's like, yeah, It's like, dude, that's not good for anybody.
Right.
Like 115 dBs and speaker for 3 hours of ACDC. But yeah, like the debauchery. And then, bad stuff happened. People lost their lives, and there's the up and the downside of it. It's live fast, die hard.
Yeah.
I was lucky to be in it for a few years and then transition into television with some other smart guys that were also nuts. Fun
What's
times.
the biggest takeaway, thinking back on it now, that like you're like, that's a lesson that I keep repeating?
One of the biggest lessons I ever learned, and I was young. I was tour managing at the time Everclear. We were playing Saturday Night Live. We did David Letterman. We did all this stuff. We were playing Saturday Night Live. John Goodman was the host, and he at the time, I think it was his 7th time hosting Saturday Night Live. It was the most. He was the host with the most amount of appearances. They loved him, right? He's great for ratings. It was great for the band, and every band gets to play 2 songs. Well, John was going great. The crowd was loving it. So they bumped our second song. We didn't get to play our second song because they wanted to throw in a skit that John really loved. So that trumped us. And that kind of broke the value exchange, right? We're going to come, we're going to play the song everyone knows first. Cool, that's it. And then you always play your second single, the single that's going to play on radio. You're debuting it to the world on Saturday Night Live in front of millions of people. Well, the producers came up to me, said, hey, sorry to say, you got to tell the band we're not doing the second song. We're doing a John Goodman skit instead. Sorry, we'll have you guys back sometime. And I was bummed. I'm young. And I'm like, all right, yeah, he's the biggest host, ratings, yada, yada, get it. So I went and told Art, who was managing the band. I mean, Art is an amazing guy. If anybody in music works hard, it's Art Alexakis from Everclear.
Wow.
Still to this day. We got in this yelling match with the producers. And I was like, well, Art, calm down. He's like a big host and this and that. And turned out we couldn't play our second song. And Art grabbed me by the back of the neck like a little kid. Like he should. He literally took me down a flight of stairs where no one could hear him ream my rear end out. He's like, I don't care what anyone says. You are part of the family. You work for the band. Look out for us. Don't take what the corporate guy or whoever said. This was the agreement, 2 songs. Now we're not going to be able to get there. It was a big, big deal. And it was very humbling. I was like, you're totally right, man. I just caved. I was like, yeah, okay, John Goodman, sure. All right, sorry, we don't get to play our second song. That was a day very early in my career where I learned, don't take no for an answer, or at least exhaust all options and push back. If you've been told you can do something, go fight and say, the reason we're here is to play that second song. Had we known this, we wouldn't have done it. So that, at a very, very young age, was a very quick lesson. That's one that still stands out in my mind of like, if you're on the team, whatever you're representing, go all in, be all in, and fight for what you believe in and what you were told you deserve.
Yeah,
that was a quick lesson.
That's such an incredible lesson, because especially even in marketing, right? You're always defending your ideas, your gut feeling.
Yeah.
Right? This is the art of commerce where we have conversations on creativity and conversions. You come up with a really solid creative background. Another thing that I think us podcasters also have in common is Jinx was a drummer.
Yep.
I was a guitarist, a big blues guy, B.B. King, Stevie Ray Vaughan, wanted to be a full-time guitarist. My dad said, you're not doing that. Go get a job. And that's how the transition to marketing happened. How did it happen for you?
It was a long path to marketing. I mean, for me, so music kind of, for me, music was changing. I literally was there and I worked the in-store at Tower Records. This was very awkward. Duran Duran blew it. I should have asked you, what's the first actual digital promoted single from a major label band that ever happened in the world? And it was Duran Duran, Electric Barbarella.
Oh, I didn't
so
know
at the time, Capitol Records and Gary Gersh, who founded Nirvana and all that, and Counting Crows, he was the president of Capitol at the time. He said, we got to join them. We can't beat them. Napster, all that stuff. Yeah. So anyway, Duran Duran was the first digital download you could buy online. I think it was like Real Player number 9. You could buy it for like 99 cents.
That brings back memories.
So at the time, though, we were doing an in-store performance at Tower Records, which was the most awkward thing ever, because it's like Tower sells physical media and you're here to promote this download that no one even understands what that is. Only like tech geeks had Real Player and knew how to actually put a credit card in to buy it. So at that point, music had shifted. Remember, this is pre-iTunes, pre-Spotify. albums and CDs.
What
Still
year was
cassettes.
this?
96. So that's when I saw, because I was around smart people who were telling me, hey man, music's changing. Music is going to go to this thing called online. And, Everclear had a website that, and an AOL account and like a handle. And that was the death of music from traditional pressing CDs and things. And we all know iTunes and Spotify now, like we buy vinyl as like a kitschy thing. But I saw that happening. I said, all right, I need to move. I need to pivot because music's changing. I don't understand it. I'm young. And a good friend of mine, Bam Margera, we grew up together. He's about 5 years my junior. But he called me one day. It's like, hey, Tim, you're working with MTV with all these big bands. I'm getting screwed over by MTV with Jackass. We did this show called Jackass. They're paying us $1,000 an episode. We're wrecking our bodies. And it turns out we got to shoot like 40 skits for them to approve 5 to become an episode. Oh. So we're wrecking ourselves for 2 weeks for $1,000, $680 after taxes. Now, Bam was a skateboarder and had like a following. And he's like, come help me. He goes, you understand the people at MTV? They're now, the people who used to program music at MTV are now programming what's called reality TV, and we're getting screwed. Help me figure out how to use Jackass, the franchise, to market what Bam was making money on, skateboards. He had the second largest signature clothing line behind Kobe Bryant in the late 90s.
Really?
Oh. Yeah. I mean, Bam Margera was huge. He was selling more skateboards than Tony Hawk. He was huge. So he asked me, enrolled me to help him. So that's when I went and joined him and said, okay, he got an offer from MTV to create his own television show called Viva La Bam, which I produced. Mm-hmm. I was a production consultant. My construction company that I own was doing all the set design and ramp builds. I was directing some of the episodes in the later seasons. I was a cast member. So I was getting checks like 8 times over. But really the goal, and this is where marketing sparked for me, was every episode we create is a commercial for Bam Margera's lifestyle. Every time we put electric sunwear sunglasses on the show and their logos, Bam's signature glass went through the roof. And we were all incented by these brands to get them like integrated into the show. Element skateboards, audio footwear. Bam had the #1 selling shoe. Bam made millions of dollars because every Sunday night at 9 p.m. for 5 seasons on MTV, we spent about $1 million of MTV's money to go wreck stuff. I mean, I drove a Hummer off a quarry cliff. I cut the roof off a Lamborghini with Billy Idol, like a Lamborghini. So, we were doing these. Yeah, it was epic. So we were doing these things, but really the crazier we get, it was really teenagers going, holy crap, I want to be this Bam Margera kid. I got to have his shoes, his glasses, his shirt, his pants, his skateboard, his everything. $millions of dollars. So I think Bam, this is probably public knowledge now, Bam was making like $50,000 an episode. Drop in the bucket compared to the money he was spending. Yep. And he and I partnered up there with his partner. His manager was great, Terry Hardy, partnered with Kelly Slater, the world's greatest, surfer. And we kind of orchestrated. And I made sure all the on set had all the integration of the brands.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
MTV Sales was like selling Verizon. They're like, here's a Verizon phone. You got to show it for 20 seconds in the episode. And we're like, call Glomb, call, whoever. So I learned the marketing machine pretty early with, okay, we're getting paid to make this show, and that's awesome. That's great. But really the end game is Bam made millions and millions and millions of dollars because we manipulated. Oh, and the other thing we did that was really smart marketing, we cut a deal with MTV. Anything that didn't air on the episode, the 22-minute episode, all the footage from that week of filming, if it took a week to create that episode, all the footage that was B-roll and on the floor, we got to keep. And a year, I think it was like a year after the original episode aired, we could do whatever we wanted with it and commercialize it. So, and they figured it out later, but we literally had these $1 million budgets and we had 35 people and all these great beta cams and everything. We shot crazy shit that we knew would never make it to air because we were going to repurpose it and Bam was going to put it out. And Bam and I created a record label called Filthy Note Records. We created a music tour with all kinds of bands. We created a compilation and we did music CD with a video DVD of outtakes, and it was the fastest selling DVD. We had a label on Warner Brothers, and we were the fastest selling DVD in MTV's history.
Wow!
And
what did you do to get all that extra footage that you had?
What did we do with it?
Yeah.
We literally
Made a
packaged it
DVD?
up and we
Yeah.
sold it.
Yeah,
we literally made DVDs.
Yeah.
So we went out, we called it Viva La Bam. So the show was called Viva La Bam.
Yeah.
And we created an entity called Viva La Bands. And it was all of Bam's favorite music. Well, this was also genius.
Awesome.
Bam loved dark death metal.
Yeah.
And all these bands from Scandinavia who no one knew in America and could never get a record deal. Bam we would take a song from each one of them, create a compilation CD, because we were still selling CDs in the early 2000s. Yeah. And we'd license those. We distribute it through WIA and Fontana and a couple of smart guys, Brett Pagens, great guy who helped us out here. And then we'd make like an hour-long DVD of outtakes from Viva La Bam. And they sold like hotcakes. And that was all money right into, Bam and our record label's coffer. So we used MTV's dollars and personnel to create all this content we knew would never make it to air, and we got it all for free and we monetized on the back end. So we learned very quickly how to be scrappy. This is when like VHSs were still being passed around and we were kind of pioneering
That's amazing.
DVDs and online and MySpace.
Yeah.
MySpace to sell DVDs.
That's crazy.
You were so ahead of the curve.
I
Did he just describe branded content?
right.
Yeah.
Exclusive membership access content which you basically back in early 2000s and late 90s.
That's right.
Yeah, this is before Facebook and YouTube even existed.
And always keep your masters. You should have told Taylor that.
That's
you
it,
know
man.
what I mean?
Always keep your masters and cut a deal so that you own them. So we owned, seriously, the stuff that we had on cutting room floor was probably 80% of the footage, and 20% made it to air. We still have piles of unseen stuff from 20 years ago that people would love to see.
Oh, you got to put it out.
Talk to Bam.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to Bam about it.
Fans can't get enough. So the fact that you're feeding into that obsession.
Yeah, and we did a couple case studies on this podcast around, Stanley and their collabs and Labubu and collab, and that's the way it's going. It's like, why spend money on a TV advertisement that's just, cost of acquisition when I could actually put something on Bam's show or whoever's now, and it's actually cost of goods because we have a collab.
And the beauty in Bam's world is they were all his native sponsors. Yeah. So they were baked into the deal. Like, hey, Bam's going to rep these companies because they've been sponsoring before, Jackass and everything. So they got a free ride, and we were friends with all of them. Ryan Kingman, who ran, Element Skateboards, got bought by Billabong. Yeah. Mike Carter, Bruce Beach, Kip Arnett. These are guys who build Electric Somewhere who we still party. One of them officiated my wedding. We built relationships that were built on trust, on credibility. Dude, I've woken up face down in puddles of beer with these guys, And we were just derelicts, but we were making money and we rigged the game before YouTube, before monetization. You had big broadcasts, you had a couple of TV networks, and we were literally selling VHS and DVDs out of the back of buses on tours. It was awesome. You can't do that today.
No, you can't.
It's happening to some degree, but we gamed the system so hard and used Viacom's and Verizon's and Pepsi's money to just create credible content that kids were dying to get their hands on.
Yeah, it's like you said in the upfronts, we couldn't have done those things at Mötley Crüe without if there was a smartphone. So you were at the cusp, right? Yeah. And then same, you were at the cusp of a place that nobody even knew about because technology wasn't there to make it accessible.
Wasn't ubiquitous. And look, I certainly am not taking credit for all this. I was part of that machine, but really, really smart people. 411 Video Magazine, if you look it up, was a subscription VHS, series. You could get skateboarding videos sent to your house monthly, the Netflix of skateboarding. So the technology wasn't there. It was very difficult. MySpace, a lot of mailing, U.S. Postal Service, and then the tours were great because Bam and I would just go party. We would literally put these bands on tour. We took Guar on tour, Cradle of Filth, all of them. We put them on tour, and we just have our own bus and party every night. We just drink and party and sell DVDs and rake in cash, and those days are long gone.
Right. Well, we're going to make a Tim Glomb playlist to go along with this episode. Just because of the bands. But so what I talk about a lot in my career is I came up at a time when Google had just released an ad. You know what I mean? So it's that, and that's people ask. We talk all the time about okay, because I was there, nobody knew what the hell was going on. So you were able to get under the hood. No CEO was coming to my desk saying, "What's your Google ad spend?" They didn't know, right? And so we were figuring it out on the fly. So that is exactly what I'm taking away from your story, which is, hey, we were figuring it out as we went along, and they didn't. The higher ups didn't even know. And as long as we gave them the return, they let us do our thing.
Oh, dude, and what was really gratifying for me is, kind of grew up a little bit. I was in music, right? Saw that through.
Yeah.
That was great. Good pile of years when music was really hot and there was money to be made. Then television, Jackass, Bam Margera, our own franchise, our own record label. Then to go work for Mark Cuban, and you talk about like a CEO going, what's your ad spend? Mark Cuban was one of the best people to ever work for. He's like, Tim, you understand music, you understand technology and TV. I'm going to create this music network. We created Access TV in partnership with AG. It hit all the bells and whistles. And he's like, Tim, here's some money. Go scrape together some stuff. Like literally, he would get a hard on. I don't know how to say that. But he would get so excited that we'd find like a $10 solution to bring, chyrons via green, keying through like a laptop to air. So we had a ticker on a live television show where some companies would spend $50,000, $100,000 on a machine just to do that. And we do it with a PowerPoint and like scraping, chroma keying a laptop. And you'd be like, dude, and that's what he would want to like tweet about and go tell people about.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He was one of the coolest people to work for because he's like, how do you game the system? I've spent $1 million a year on Facebook ads with him and we were gaming the system. That's where I really started learning how to build audiences and email lists that you owned. Because Facebook came out and everybody's spending on Facebook.
Yeah.
Toyota, I think, was the first brand to do a commercial where at the end, it was a Facebook URL.
Yeah, that's right.
Facebook.com/Toyota.
Yeah.
And that was like, whoa, you're not sending people to your website on a television commercial? Well, we were gaming at Facebook and ads and all kinds of things. So it's great working for people who give you the tools, the know-how, and the noose, so to speak, to say, jump off the ledge. That's either going to be a bungee cord and it's going to be great, or you're going to hang yourself and we're going to fire you. Right?
That's amazing.
Is this a noose or a bungee cord? I don't know. Let's go.
Let's figure it out.
Yeah, so working with cool people, it was key to some of the best things and some of the most fun I had, and Mark Cuban was a big part of that as well.
That's amazing. So some lessons, we're going to do some real-time lessons. So, treat your team like a family, but remember you're on the same team.
Yes.
Right? That you said that loud and clear.
And fight for what you deserve and what you earned.
Yeah. Work with cool people.
Always. If it's not fun, don't do it. I get it. Some people got to punch a clock and they got to take a job, but if it ain't fun, man, you should be looking for your next gig.
Life's too short. Life's too short, man.
Yeah, even in your 20s, it's too short.
This is The Art of Commerce, featuring conversations on creativity and conversions. If you found value in today's episode, follow the show, leave a review, and stay tuned for more insights for the minds reshaping modern marketing.